Oh, perfect. Yeah, it says going live in now. The link to Avid so that like if you want to send this to somebody, they can join the group and see our live stream. Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Ginger. If you haven't met me, I'm the executive director of ASIFA-South. And today we're here with a special guest, Avid. And Avid is a founder of ROCKETSHEEP Studio in Philippines. And, you know, as a fellow Southeast Asian, I am very, very excited for this. And welcome, Avid.
Hola, hello.
Hello. Hey, so Avid, before we get started, you know, and show everybody, you know, a bit of your work and stuff like that, I just wanted to mention that it's been very interesting because we have like ASIFA-South, which is usually South US, but a lot of times some people are also say, hey, is it, you know, Southeast Asia or Southeast whatever? Because we do have a lot of Southeast Asian folks inside of our organization as well. Like our former extra coordinator was from Vietnam as well. And so I'm so excited to have you here with us today. So the first thing I wanted to do was kind of get a little bit of information about you. Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Like how you
Well,
got into animation?
my name is Avid Liongoren. I'm a human being, uh, currently without COVID, and
I'm excited to
I
have you here with
stumbled
us today.
into
So
filmmaking because I wanted to be in a band, but I had no musical talent. So I ended up making music videos for my classmates who ended up in famous bands. So that's like yeah. So that's the very short origin story.
that's a very cool origin story. Connor, let me know when you're ready and we can play the tiny mini reel that Avid prepared for his introduction.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Let's go to that. So Avid, you can check out the group page and watch with us as well too.
Okay.
Hello, we are Rocket Sheep, a tiny indie animation studio from the Philippines. We are made
First thing I
up of
wanted to
5
do was
artists
kind of
and 2
Lingore.
dogs.
and check out
I'm
the group
Avid
page and
Liongoren, the
watch with us
founder
as well
and
too.
dishwasher. We regularly do We are commission Rocket work Sheep, for a advertising tiny and indie music animation videos studio so from that the we don't go Philippines. hungry as we
First thing I
pursue our
wanted to
passion
do
of
was kind
producing
of
our own
Lingore.
films.
and
We have
check out
made
the group
Avid
page and
shorts through
watch
the
with us
founder
as well
and
too.
dishwasher. 2 feature films so far. The first one, Saving Sally, was a mix of live action and
First thing I wanted to
animation.
do was
It's
kind
about a
of
boy who secretly loves a girl, but the girl has a penis monster for a boyfriend. It was mostly self-produced but also made possible by the CNC French Film Fund. It took us 12 soul-crushing years to make, mostly because of our own inexperience and lack of bulk cash at hand. Thankfully, it had a theatrical run in the Philippines and won many awards in genre film festivals back in 2017. Although we fumbled the worldwide distribution because we had no idea how to do that. Our second film is a soap opera satire about the illicit affair between a proletariat pussycat and a bourgeois business dog, entitled Hayop Ka, or You Animal in English. This time, we vowed not to make the same noob mistakes, so we partnered with a much more experienced producer who had rock hard abs and would handle distribution and marketing. We also managed to complete the film in under 4 years, so yay to progress! But the pandemic happened, and all our original theatrical plans were destroyed. Hayop Ka went to Netflix instead and was released across Asia, and we will do festivals in the Western world this year. We are currently working on a couple of other films. Light Lost, a film for kids, is in the development stage. It's about an adventurer who loses his partner to an interdimensional portal. He goes through many hardships to find her, only to realize that she does not want to be rescued. Our other film, Jaja Zaturna versus the Amazonistas of Planet X, is currently in pre production. It's the story of a shy gay man who finds a magical rock that transforms him into a flamboyant female superhero, ready to defend her hometown from rampaging monsters, malicious zombies, and snooty alien fashionistas. We have been lucky enough to receive prize grants from Bifan and Locarno. We are securing partners so we won't have to keep selling our kidneys. As filmmakers, we have yet to experience financial success. We remain a struggling studio, doing our best in figuring out how to make animated filmmaking in the Philippines a sustainable endeavor. Our long term advocacy is to encourage local animation production. In the global animation industry,
Connor
the
sent over the link
Philippines is a
from the
go-to
short reel.
nation for outsourcing animation services. We are home to thousands of talented animators, but sadly, we are not known for ideating and producing our own work. There have been less than 10 animated feature films in the entire 100-year history of Philippine cinema, and we want to continue adding to that, while also hoping that little by little, someday Filipino animators can be known not just as service providers, but as creators as well. For now, we consider ourselves very lucky to have food money and the ability to continue working on our films. We love what we do and we hope you watch our stuff. Thank you!
Perfect. Yeah.
Hello.
Like I said, once I got you with us here today, I was super excited because like what you mentioned inside of your little introduction just now, Southeast Asian folks, we're not always very known for original content, especially in animation, but we're more known for outsourcing, like taking work from America, from China, from Japan, and whatnot. So it's so amazing that you've been able to do this thing where it's basically everyone's dream. What I'm gonna say, and I know it's not like this dream where I want to talk to you about that as well too. Whether the dream, quote unquote, is what other people might envision it to be.
Well, definitely not because we're not rich. So we're just alive. I mean, we're just afloat, and uh, the way I see it, it's at least we're doing what we want to do, and we're not in debt. So that's of course we'd like to be able to do this for a living, but for now it's not yet feasible. So it's still heavily subsidized by the commercial work that we do. So we haven't figured out how to make money out of this yet. I mean, what happens is we make some money and then we put that money into the next production. Then that money, it's like having a cup of water and then pouring it into the next cup. And we'd like to have a bit of surplus the next time around, though. So, I mean, yeah. So that's it's. When we were doing our first film, we thought that all we really needed to do was make the films, but that's not how it happens. It turns out because we were raised on this field of dreams mindset that if you build it, they will come. That's not how it works. So I mean, it turns out making a film is just half the work. So getting people to pay to watch it is its own discipline. So, and that's something we knew nothing about. So when we released our first film, we had to learn all about theatrical distribution in a month's time, and we had to learn how to get the permits and all that stuff. And then when we started doing our festival run, because he said we were thinking, okay, so we're now in festivals. That's great. So it's come alive. We're traveling the world, but we made this very stupid mistake that if this is the length of the festival, we'd always be invited in the middle, and we'd leave, go to the next festival, and then we'd learn that we won something, but we're no longer there to take advantage of whatever buzz. So we miss all the connections. We spent a year doing festivals, not locking down anything despite winning so many stuff because we didn't know that you had to physically be there. One silly thing though was we were at the LA Asian, I forgot the name of the festival, but it was in LA, Los Angeles Asia Pacific something something. And for the first time, I was actually there when we won, but I was late because I was geeking out at the Universal Studio lot. I was taking pictures with the Breaking Bad van next to because we had this like we were invited by the Sony peeps and I was just geeking out at the lot and taking picture and posing with the Ecto one and so while we were winning and so I got to the party and we won and nobody cares, nobody knows, because nobody know. Even we just got the award, and we didn't go up on stage, and so I didn't make any connection. The only person who ever talked to me that evening, who I thought was an executive because he was wearing a suit, was just a gate crasher. Because he was like, I'm just here to eat food. So it's like, I thought, okay, so it's hard. It's so that's what we lacked. We know how to make films. We don't know how to schmooze. We don't know how to make contacts. And so yeah, so for the next film, when we said, okay, we'll do it correctly this time. We'll attend markets before we release the film, because so we had this whole plan, but then and we were selected in markets, but then all the markets transferred. COVID happened, so everything is just digital. And while we made a bunch of connections, it's not the same as being physically there. So it's been very slow, as opposed to like meeting people and locking down, contacts and gaining the trust to move forward. So yeah, so it's been, but at least we're able to make films. So that's and but that's just half the work, it turns out. So to make it a sustainable long-term thing.
Definitely. I think that's one of the things that, you figure out in the long run. It's everybody has a dream. Usually, not everybody, but most people, when they come into animation or filmmaking, they have this dream where, I'm going to produce my own content. Then people are going to love it. It's going to be picked up by networks and distribution. And then I'm going to be set because, it's going to be so famous, and it's on Netflix, it's on all these different places already too. So I think it's really hard for some people to phantom in the mind that, hey, but your stuff is on Netflix. How come you're still not rich or famous? And like what kind of like in like and I don't think that people realize that that there's a lot of the business aspect that goes into this whole running a studio, the whole like trying to own your own dream, your own content as well too. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Well, basically, we're at this. The reality of things is that Netflix right now, or any streaming platform, is very much like the grown-up version of working for exposure. You'll get money, yeah, but it's not. They're in the reality of things is that in this day and age that you don't have theatrical, the odds are stacked against the filmmaker because you don't have a lot of options. Like that's one of the hardest things that like we prepared this time for our second film. We're not gonna do everything. We prepared. We have a distribution plan in mind, and we had but then when COVID happened in my country, there was a power grab by the government, and they shut down our biggest media conglomerate, because it was there's this thing that happened in the world that it happened in Thailand as well. Like the there like COVID is perfect for the authoritarian, like people. There were two ways that went. You have New Zealand, where they shined, and Vietnam, where socialism triumphed in handling things, whereas where elsewhere, like our country, there was this muscle flex of authoritarianism. So
like
we
Burma
lost
as well
our
right now.
in Burma as well. Yeah, so we lost our biggest media conglomerate. It was crippled by the government, and so we lost our promotional platform. And so those were one of the no theatrical, no local buyer. That means the odds are, we're not in a position in a very good position to negotiate with whatever platform. So we were like, it's a pandemic decision to just take what you could, given. So that's, everybody's always asking us, why can't we see it in the rest of the world? Because we still want to be able to. So we did a compromise. Okay, we'll do Asia, and we'll try our luck with the rest of the world. So we did have, like Netflix wanted to buy our film for the whole world, but it's not. We still want to be able to do festivals and earn our laurels and try to get a better deal for us. It's like our Netflix deal wasn't bad. It was better than most, but it wasn't the ideal that we spent 3 years. We were uh, actually more almost 4 years. We were working in front of computers for so long. So what we were looking forward to was sharing it in the theater um, with human beings. But yeah, so that's the flip side. So it's a big adjustment to change your plans and accept that you're not gonna make what you originally planned. So I hate that. But like I said earlier, at least we're alive and we're still working and we're not in debt. So that's as good as I guess that's better. I mean, that's what anyone could hope for in this pandemic.
Definitely. Connor, are we ready to kind of show the little short stuff first? Because I would love to discuss a couple different things about that. Especially, I'm on your Facebook as well, looking at, Peter was talking about the Hayop Ka, and I was just laughing my head off about that as well, too. Okay,
All right.
perfect. Let's take a look at that, and we'll come back and have a chit chat.
It all started at the roaster's farm. There was this funny pig Bolsey who befriended the chick Saucy.
From the moment I laid eyes on Saucy, I knew.
We were meant to be together.
They were inseparable. They enjoyed playing together and eating together, and soon they fell in love.
Life was perfect.
But then everyone was talking about it. They couldn't believe what was happening. Saucy's father did not approve.
But I love Ballsy.
You can't be with her, said Bolsey's dad.
No!
Good thing I was there.
Master Patado!
I told him about this enchanted volcano. Legend has it that anyone who jumps in the crater will be granted eternal love. And so Bolsey and Saucy left the farm. The journey was epic and tiring, but it made them closer to each other. No danger could make them stop until they finally found the enchanted volcano. And they shouted, "Awesome together!" Introducing Kenny's new bacon roast. Flavorful chicken wrapped in bacon that's awesome together. Only from Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Hello stranger, you got me hooked up on neon light. What have you got for me? Is it my future? If I give in, would I be safe? Take me stranger, come and take me by your wings. What is out there for me? What I got, nothing. I've always dreamt of flying high.
It's lonely at night. Help me free from all the fear inside. Trapped in these walls, in disguise. What is of me? I'm not free.
Reach out, 'cause help is not so far. Reach out, 'cause help is not so far. Now I have nothing, I'm lost searching for my soul.
I'm not free.
Hello, hello,
No,
hello.
these are awesome. There are so many different styles, and I can definitely see, like the hand drawn aspect too, because I think that's one of the things is hand drawn animation, and like now you see more of the puppet animation styles like that. Like, do you have affinity for like hand drawn animation?
I like all sorts. I mean, whichever. It's always every time we take on a job, we always ask, so how much time do we have? So and how much money? So it's always but in general, we're a very we as a studio we know our limitations, so we're we take a look at it and we be the first one to say, oh, we can't do that, we're not that good. So it we know what we know the limitations of, we can never do Akira or something like that.
Definitely. Oh, there's some comments here too. So, like Tam was saying, oh, it's such so much beautiful artwork, and Adrian, who's actually one of our our new programming coordinator inside of our group, is from the Philippines as well too, and he was really
Oh, cool.
excited. He got up because he wanted to kind of watch this. And Ian O'Donnell said the Kenny Rogers one was fun. He didn't expect the twist at the end. It was really well done. That was funny. That was hilarious.
That was silly. That was very silly.
I love the theatricalness of it. I feel like that's just something with the soap opera-ness that also like comes through. So I think, yeah, the other question I had for you as well too is like, you do shorts, you do commercial work, and how did you get yourself into a feature? Like, did you just jump into it? Did you realize how long it was going to take the first time you started?
Yeah. So when right out of college, and I started doing music videos for my classmates who ended up in famous bands. It's like, hey, let's make a movie, and we thought it would be something that would take a year of our life, and when it didn't take a year to make, and so after the first year, I was like, okay, we're not anywhere near finished, because when you start a film and you tell your friends that you're doing this really fun thing, and a lot of friends will say, I'll help, and you think everybody will help, and they will help, but when life calls and people get hungry, they start going to do their real world stuff, and and they start leaving, and that leaves your project unfinished, and that's when you realize that passion is great, but you need money to pay people to. So that's one of the earlier lessons. Okay, so let's do work so we can start paying people. And after a year of working, and we were nowhere near complete, it was like, do we quit? And then it was, but we've already spent a year, so let's not throw that away. After the second year, it's like, we've spent 2 years and we're still nowhere near complete. Do we quit? But we've spent 2 years already, and 3 and 4, and and 12 years later, we completed a film. So that is not the proper way to do something. So yeah, so it's the only reason we were able to complete our first film. And it's not because we had the patience of a saint. It's mostly because we were very dumb and thinking that, that this is something we could finish. And we were just too naive that we would finish it soon. And it just so, and it's like an anime time skip, and it's like, oh, 12 years. And I'll have a white streak on my hair. So it's like, that didn't exist before. So yeah, so it's mostly, a lot of creatives talk about passion, but for us, it was mostly just commitment to, passion died out at like 3 months in. So it was really like, let's finish this. So we were able to, but not because we had the wills of steel. We're just too stupid to realize that what we were doing was going to take that long.
Yeah, I think that's part of life, you notice that a lot of times people do things that other people like, whoa, how did you do it? It's mainly because the same thing you said, we didn't realize we couldn't. But in this particular case as well too, I love how you're talking about, passion dies down really quickly, especially if you're starting something that can take that long. And in the beginning, you kind of feel, oh, it's gonna be 3 years, it's gonna be 4 years, it's not gonna be that long, and then suddenly it just trails off in a way.
Yeah.
What did you learn about that process about yourself and your team? How many people worked on this together?
We have a core team of 5 people, and it's like watching people on a time lapse, because I hired them straight out of college, and now they have children and houses. So yeah, what did I learn? I don't know really. I'm too it's at many times, I think at many times, because I'm running a small studio, at many times I've been asked to scale up. I've been invited, like there are people been interested to put money in the studio, do more commercial work, do more advertising work, scale up. But I was always sure that I never want to chase overhead. I don't want to have 50 people working for us, and then I'm always worried about meeting everyone's salaries. We're able to do these stupid things of chasing films, of hoping to make feature films, is because we don't have a big overhead, and we operate out of a kitchen or of a small office space. We didn't move to the business district like at many stages. And I always look at like my peers, and because I work with other post-production houses as a director, and I always go to their offices and um, work there because they'd hire me. And I'd always wonder if I made the right choice, because it's nice that I'm like, hey, we all started out at the same time, and you guys have swanky, nice offices in the business district, and we're operating out of a kitchen with 2 dogs, but yeah, but at least we're not we're not chasing overhead. And if anything, I guess we're able to adapt to the pandemic very quickly because we didn't have to worry about so many people. So I don't know, dumb luck really. It's really just that things fell into place. But yeah.
No, I really agree with that as well too, because when you have a team, there's always the thing sometimes, like even for us when we're working with contractors, and then like they're also my friends, and they're like, oh, are there new jobs coming in? I was like, let me check, because if the team gets really big, then it's really hard to kind of maintain that as well too, because you need to be like, okay, now I have to go get a new job, now I have to get a new one, like bring it in type of thing. Ian O'Donnell said, oh, thanks for the program today and sharing your experience. He says that like commitment isn't all bad. At least you finished, and others may have given up and never completed. So you should be congratulated. Another thing is he said that he's a voice actor and his focus is in that area. Do you mind talking about your process for collaboration in bringing voice actors when you're working on your projects?
So when we have a few clips of maybe you could pull that up. Like wait, let me send you a link of that. Like.
Yeah, you can just post it right here on the Google chat, and Connor can grab that.
Let me look it up. But basically, when we did Hayop Ka, I recorded a guide track with 4 people who did all the voices for the film. So, and we did that over 2 days, and it was cool because we were just freestyling, and we animated again. We did an animatic against that. Then we brought in. Then we brought in the voice act. They're like famous people in my country because we wanted to have a proper chance of selling the film. So we signed actors, proper stars to do our film. And so what I do is I'd play a scene, and it will already have an animatic, and it will already have a first pass, which is already good. Because they were like, I worked with theater actors, and if we didn't need to sell the film, I'd have stuck with our first guide track. So, but mostly when I work with I'm not a very controlling person, and I always I let people do their thing, and then we play it back and we just talk about it. So it's not. I don't have a set thing in my mind. It's like you cast against, you bring in people with talent and you let them do their thing. And I'm not from the school of, I'm not an auteur, I'm more from the school of like a director is somebody part of the team. So it's like you let people do their thing and you just egg them on towards what would work as a whole thing. But it's there are people out there, directors out there who have very clear things of what they want. I'm not one of those. Like, I'm mostly freestyling as we go along and making sure that it just comes together. So yeah.
Definitely. And like to Ian's point and to your point as well too, we've been working on like different projects as well. And that's the thing, you know, when you're trying to sell a film, unfortunately sometimes people will also ask who's attached to this. And I have
Yeah.
this debate all the time where I'm like, you know, voice acting, it should give an opportunity to people to enter the industry. But a lot of times there's like, you know, we're using movie stars and stuff like that. But on the other hand, if you need to sell a film, you'll be like, oh, we have this movie star attached to it. And suddenly people are more willing to pick it up as well too. So there's a balance. And sometimes you know you can like add okay, there's a star attached, and then we have roles for people who aren't stars in the industry as well too, and try to balance that off.
Yeah,
So
especially with animation, when especially in my country, because you can make like a film using stars for half of what we cost. So and that's a sure bet, because you know films are just little investments for money people, because they want to know if they're going to be able to sell the film. So yeah, so stars, you know, are part of the landscape, unless you want to do like an art film where you don't really, it's just for festivals and you don't really care so
yeah.
much about the financial returns. That's a
Yeah.
that's a route as well. So
Yeah, in Thailand we actually had this thing too, where there was this part where you know, dubs, anime dubs,
yeah,
and then some
yeah,
people were
yeah.
saying, oh, you know, there's anime dubs and there's movie stars. Can the movie stars do a better job than the people who have been dubbing for a long time, because there's a flavor that usually the person who dubs the anime brings to the table as well too. I think, you know, whatever it is a choice that is made by the company, or however it's made. But also to Ian's point, and what you were saying is, you know, theater. I think theater is definitely one of the places that a lot of people also definitely go for it, you know, if they want to see voice actors and stuff as well too.
Yeah.
Um,
And you know,
um,
voice acting is acting. So it's there's this silly thing that people think that live action actors can't voice act, but you know, it's a matter of directing. You know, you let them know what can and can't happen, you know. And of course you edit their performances so that it fits well into your project.
100%. So I wanted to talk about two things specifically today as well too, is Hayop Ka and Saving Sally. So with Hayop Ka, I think you know, some folks have been really happy about the fact that it's an adult animation, and so it like I think that's the one aspect of it that was really surprising, because you know, when you see animation that is original content, especially coming out of Southeast Asia, it's usually something that's kids friendly. So with Hayop Ka, how was this journey, and did you find anything that was like special about it? And also, if you don't mind, I would like to talk a little bit about the PETA thing too.
What the pita? Yeah. So well, where do we begin? We after we did so Saving Sally is a love story, and after we did that, it is when we were about to finish, we were about to release it. It's like, okay. I do not want to take 12 years again to make another film. So let's do something simple and kind of like thematically the opposite of, because you know, Saving Sally is this sweet film, and it's like a teen romance. It's like, you know, of course it has a penis monster in it, but yeah. So let's do like something ridiculous. And while we were stuck in traffic once, me and our art director, and we got tired of listening to music, and then we tuned into a radio drama. I don't know if you guys have that there, afternoon radio dramas, and we're like, this is so silly, because you know, it's they're so serious, and it's a drama, and but we're laughing because it's so stupid, and it's like this would work well with animation. We just take this kind of performance and we lace cartoons on top of it, and you know, it's like a soap opera but with cartoons. So it's really just that silly juxtaposition of two genres, and we you know, soap opera is a very famous thing here in the Philippines, and as well. And So the first time I showed it around was in Spain because we were in Animac. It's this animation festival, and so I was presenting my film, and I also said, "Hey, I have another project. Take a look." And I was surprised that the Spanish people liked it. It's like, but because of course they're familiar with the telenovela, so and that egged us on. It's like, hey, maybe we're onto something here. So we spent I spent the next few years taking part in work animation labs and workshops, and I found out that um, like when presented to like cultured people, they hated our film because it was very, you don't slap people around. That's not something that happens in the Western world, but that's something that happens in soap operas. South Americans understand it. The French do not. So those are the things I found out. It's like the minute a woman or a man is slapped, that's like violence against women, and it's not a trope. So those are the sensitivities that we learn. It's like, but so we tried to find a balance to it. So one of the best compliments we had in one of our workshops was when we presented it to a panel of European filmmakers. This feminist distributor told us, I really hate you guys because I was laughing despite myself. So good job. So it's like, I mean, it wasn't a compliment, but it's like, okay, so we're doing something here because we just want to make people laugh. So yeah, so
Yeah, no,
that's the
100%, because in Thailand we have a lot of soap operas too, and the movies are almost like recycled. The plots are recycled, and there are things that are problematic with it as well too, because there's like the culture of rape, and there's like the culture of like certain things like you said. There's the hero and the heroine, and the hero kidnaps the heroine and then gets them at the end, stuff like that as well too. That has been ingrained into our culture. And when I came over to the US, there was a lot of things that I had to kind of relearn, where I was like, oh, I'm doing something that I think is normal, but over here they're like, no, that's not acceptable, or vice versa. There's things that become more like a sensitive issue, because over here there are a lot of things that happen that are very different from places in Southeast Asia that I mentioned, and like for example the Black Lives Matter movement as well too. Like in Thailand, you hardly see any Black people. And so it's something that people don't consider as like, like as close to hand. So it'll be something that's like, oh, that's like, will be hyped up about the trend in the world, but it's not like a forward impact. And to your point, when you were talking about soap opera, probably in the US, there's a lot of people, even the company I work for, base a lot of content off podcasts as well too, like the even we have like the different podcasts, but also like Welcome to Night Vale that kind of incorporates that. But that aspect of the flavor of that ridiculousness, where when you mention why the people who watch telenovela gets it, and the people who watch like these trashy, I'm sorry, I have to call the content that sometimes come out in the previous generation from my country as well too. These recycled trashiness kind of content as well too. That type of aspect, there is a very cultural part of that comes through. And when we're watching, there is the trope as well too. Are you still with us a bit? I think a bit has frozen as well too. So let's see if a bit can return to us for in a bit. Okay. So we'll but for those of you who just kind of tune in while we're waiting for a bit to maybe come back in, there is this thing where there's a lot of cultural difference in terms of content, in terms of the type of things that are very cultural. Sometimes, like when you watch a film, you might not get it as much. Avid, yay, you're back with us.
I got my dog pulled out the plug. So yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I was just discussing, that there is a cultural difference, and that's one of the things that Tam, one of our commenter, was saying, that she loves Rocket Sheep's animation. It has such a unique look, and the environments are especially lovely. And are there any aspect of cultural Philippine culture that have influenced your film?
Oh yeah. So that's a thing that we advocate. So we're trying to find the Filipino style, because most young artists in my country are either into anime or Marvel or Western. So either draw in what's the famous animation style in the West? The school SVA. What's that?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Cal Arts.
Yes, Cal
You
Arts.
know,
Cal Arts.
so it's either Cal Arts or anime or Disney. So it's all either Western, but um, I think that's a problem in Southeast Asia. Like the artists don't like to draw their milieu so much. It's like so that's what we're trying to do. We don't know yet how we'll end up creating our own unique Filipino style, but it starts with drawing our environment. So um, we I see that, like, every artist and artist station, whether even if they're from Southeast Asia, they still draw Caucasians, or like because that's the look that's the kind of work you do if you go into gaming, or it's they draw New York skylines or Mecca. So yeah, so we try to just draw our environment. So that's the thing what we're trying to do to rep our city, because it's not very well represented in pop culture as far as the graphic art is concerned. Because um, uh, we have a very strong independent cinema. So in live action, it's very well represented. I'm just like Bangkok. Because it's but not in animation. You get for some reason
I
people
get
don't
you.
like to draw, but in live action, because the Western world loves poverty porn, so our slums, our streets are well represented in film, but not in cartoons. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand you like 100% where you're coming from as well too, and that's really interesting too, because that's what I was looking at your Facebook as well too. You were talking about creating a style, which would fit with the Filipino type of animation, and I thought that was really super interesting because I was just watching another video which we're talking about corporate animation and how corporate
Yeah.
animations are all looking kind of the same, because there's this thing where we have to make sure it's diverse, but it's diverse enough that nobody is actually represented in it. So all the styles nowadays kind of come out looking the same, but it also depends on the budget. It's always like the whole thing that we're talking about right now is the budget, especially when we don't control the content versus like what comes out. Another question that I have as well too is your thoughts on the animation industry in the Philippines. What do you what is the current situation with the animation industry in the Philippines?
Yeah, so we have a very big animation industry as far as outsource is concerned. A lot of people are employed, um, but so yeah, and but it's very hard to do original content because there is no blueprint on how to make tons of money. It's not enough to make just the right amount of money. I mean, like our studio, we only ever break even. So that's never a good thing for business people. They want to make a lot of money. So until we figure out how to make a lot of money doing original Filipino content, Filipino animation, everybody's just waiting around and see, and they'll just stick to doing the high paying outsource work. Um, and like a lot of things in the third world, there are a lot of labor violations. So it's not very well regulated. The thing about animation is that it's very passion driven. Any young fresh grad would be just excited to work in any studio without checking if they're going to be compensated, without even knowing all their labor rights, because they're just so happy to be working on stuff they love. So that is like perfect for corporate abuse. So that happens, but they're also great. They're also like fair studios, but at the same time, a lot of there are studios that have perfected this vicious cycle of hiring young people, abusing them, and then once they wise up and know that they've been taking shit, they move on and they hire fresh grads. It's this vicious cycle of hiring naive, wide-eyed, just happy to work, and will work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. That sort of thing is a normal thing here in the Philippines. So until they wise up, and then they don't even make minimum wage. So that's terrible. But so that exists here. So
It's like running on
so
passion.
running on passion, and because it's artists are easily abused because they like what they do.
Definitely. I think it's definitely a global thing too, but probably because,
Yeah, I know that happens a lot. On stateside, that happens more in the VFX world, right? Like
yes, yeah.
people are paying to work. I've read about that. That, like, there are some designs, visual effects schools. You're paying tuition while doing an internship working on a film you'd love to be a part of anyway, but you actually paid to be a part of it. So that's weird.
Definitely. It's like a lot of aspect where, there's regulations, but also different states are very different. Like for example, Georgia is a work for hire state as well too.
Mhm.
So and like it's not the same as other places. And if you're a union or non-union studio, those are also like different considerations. But I think in general, this is something that we've talked about, me and my friends as well too, in other studios, that it's a global thing.
Yes,
Thing
sir.
where like, okay, we care about the animation industry in the US, but because I'm from Thailand, so therefore I know that like there is a global pipeline that doesn't just end here. We do outsourcing, but how do you ethically make sure that this whole pipeline is more sustainable? Because even when you're outsourcing, you're like, oh yeah, you get more bang for your buck, and that is for sure. But also, is that ethical on a sustainable level? Are there any type of regulations that will help to kind of subsidize, or that it's a whole long story that goes like a global. I think people need to kind of talk more on a global basis to kind of understand the pipeline, and like you said, understanding the structure of doing something for Netflix, or even the fact that when I talk to people and says, just because somebody has the title of producer or CEO or whatever doesn't mean that they're they get like they're rich and everything as well too. It's all this like very big glamour type of feel sometimes, that like because you, like you said, people are drawn to our industry, therefore a lot of times there's a lot of things that can be swept under the rug as well too, a little bit more. Another thing as well too is what about the what is the reception of your film locally? How are people receiving it? Or do they also think that have they been used to like animation is for adults as well too, or
Okay, so that's a funny question because people are fighting about this. Because uh, first we started off we started off with a semi controversy because one of our cast is a strong supporter of our despot. So it's like, there were calls for like boycott even before we were released. Of course, uh, he's just one actor, but and we don't agree with him, but he fits the role perfectly. And so there's that. Then when the film was released, we got good reviews. It's either people love it or people really hate it, because it's like, I think it's the problem of, for those people who hate our film, it's because I think it's because we're the first Filipino animated film on Netflix, and they're kind of treating it like it's a beauty contest, that you're supposed to represent everything about your country. I think that's a very Asian thing, that every single time somebody is out there, you have to be the shining light of everything. So, but the thing is that I'm telling people, we are not the shining light. We are just one film. We are not the Philippine animation industry. For that to happen, a lot of people need to make stuff. We're not the sole, we're not representing, because I think there, people who hate our film, want it to be like a Miyazaki thing, something deep, something that you can be universally be proud of. But what we did is like, it's a silly film. It's a shits and giggles kind of film. So we wanted to do something very quickly, and we wanted to practice, and we wanted to do something that we'd have fun making. That we're not representing our country like a beauty queen would, there's that. And so, but at the same time, we get lots of fan art, lots of lewd fan art. It's like we didn't know. The very first time we released a trailer, I got an email. We would like to invite you to be a keynote speaker at the Furry Philippines convention. I'm like, oh, like, what the fuck? But it was then that I was educated, actually, because when you hear the word furry, it's like this, what the hell? Because you know all of these freaky deviant art things, like but then it turns out that that's like there are a lot of decent furry people. like it's like furry, it's a loaded term, but it doesn't mean that there are a lot of people who just like anthropomorphized animals. It doesn't mean that you sexualize them or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, take a look at Beastar too, right? There's also Beastar on Netflix. There's a lot of animation, and there's also a lot of not just animation. If you look at things like movies with lichen, movies with werewolves as well too, it's very interesting where furry is like, oh, that this is furry. But also when you look at live action, you're like, what about Werewolf in Paris? Huh? What about all these other different things too, like Turtle Ninja? Sorry, I'm not gonna go. I go with Turtle Ninja.
Yeah. So. The only reason we have animals in our film is because it's a pun, because Hayop Ka means you animal, or you son of a bitch. So, and they're like literal sons of bitches because they're dogs. That was the only reason we did that, because it's like an internal joke for us. It's like, Hayop Ka is this word that you say, it's a curse word you say when you're fighting in soap operas. It's not something you really use in real life, but it's like a soap opera trope, And so you're shouting, "You animal," or "You son of a bitch." So let's make animals with this. So that's the only reason. We're not like so. But suddenly we're being invited to a furry convention, so that was fun. So yeah. But yeah. So we it's like, I guess it's nice that like when there's this like famous YouTube reviewer. His name is Saber Spark, and he reviewed our film. And if you check the comments, people are fighting. It's like, okay, that's good, I guess, because it's better for people to fight about our film than for them to ignore it, right? I mean, of course, we would have preferred, universal praise, but that's not gonna happen. So
so I feel like it's a case of damn if you do, damn if you don't. There's a lot of things where you can do anything, but somebody will like it, somebody will hate it, and sometimes you might go, that's not my intention, but it's damn if you do, damn if you don't. You even got a thing with PETA too, right? Like PETA is like targeting your film.
Yeah, like don't say that because it's speciesist. it hurts animals. It's like it's just silly. So
definitely. So Ian was saying that's a lot of pressure to be like the shining light of everything, to represent everything about a country or culture in a project. And Tam was just
when you're just making a single film. It's just this, South Park doesn't represent all of USA. Dragon Ball does not represent all of Japan.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the thing too. Even when they talk about women filmmakers, and they're like, this film represents like, oh, this is a woman filmmaker doing something like this or that. But that is the thing, when an industry, like especially in Southeast Asia, we are still like developing our own voices of especially content, especially with a lot of censorship around different like issues and stuff that people are learning to use their voice. People are learning to explore topics and subjects. So therefore, I feel like it's an important thing as well to kind of understand where filmmakers are coming from, but also understand the cultural stuff. And at certain times, I was like, not take ourselves like too seriously, because we need to understand that we don't live in a bubble. We do live in this thing where you want to look at the cost and the effect and where certain things are coming from as well too. And for our country, I feel like, as a developing in terms of original content, it's always an exploration. Like it's not like it's another issue where somebody was talking about a film, an animation from the first black studio, and then they put it on a pedestal, and people are like, "Oh, this has to represent the shining beacon of like black animators." And then I was like, "Yeah," but the same thing is, it gets to a point where when you start to get saturated, then the content starts to become better. But before we get to that point, we still need to have those contents.
Yeah, just make stuff. Then we'll get we'll get to the representation later. Because right now we're so underrepresented. We just need to like add more things. So more people should just be making stuff and not judge one singular film as a representative of such a diverse of a whole country of a whole scene. So that shouldn't be the case.
Definitely. So before we wrap this up, I just really want to say, like, it's been such a pleasure, especially, there's this thing where it's just like, oh, Southeast Asian film. I'm sorry, I still have that pride, like just that feeling as well too, even though we're saying like, oh, it's not a representation of everything. But I feel like it's coming from the fact that when we look at the whole industry as a whole, and then we look at not just the Western Hemisphere, but the Eastern Hemisphere as well too, and especially Southeast Asia, in terms of like the content compared to Korea and Japan and China, which does have a bigger, robust, more developed content space. It is just this thing where I feel like we are getting there. There is a lot of potential, and you've been like shedding so much light about like your own journey into this filmmakerhood.
Malaysia is really cool because they're the shining light in Southeast Asia because they're getting it done. They have government support. I have Malaysian animation friends, and we're like we call each other the Brown Panthers because we're gonna make brown stuff. So Brown Panther power. So like let's make characters that eat in streets and
That's fabulous. Yeah, even Ian says he loves the analogy. South Park doesn't represent the whole U.S. and Dragon Ball doesn't represent all of Japan. And I think the other thing would be that as a filmmaker, as an animator, oh, your puppy, so cute, and you said this dog is a rescue dog too.
Yeah, his name's Larry.
Yeah. So Avid, thank you so much for today. Is there anything you want to, leave with, anything that you've learned, inspirational quotes, or whatever you're going to be working on next?
Well, just I think it's always important to, animation is work, and we are all workers, and we should all know our rights as workers and encourage encourage others to know about their rights as workers, because like you said, it's a global thing, and we as artists are easily abused, and because we run on so much passion. So it's always good to know your rights as workers.
Definitely. Thank you so much for today. And then thank you everybody for checking out Tam. And Ian says, oh, thank you for coming today. And Tam says, wish you all the best for Rocket Sheep. Yes. So for everybody, if you're tuning in as well too, this is Avid, and we've been talking about Rocket Sheep Studio in the Philippines. You can check out this recording that we're going to have on Facebook for at least another 2 weeks and a half. Hope you tune in next time. We're going to be doing more panels, more studio spotlights every month. We also have our sketch drawing session on Discord to kind of mingle and meet each other every Wednesday. And starting the month after this month, because we took a break, we're going to be having our free live drawing session. So tune in and check up our calendar, which we're going to be setting around. Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for today. And thank you, Avid. You've been amazing. Let's see.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So Connor can tuck it out first and don't go yet a bit.
And we're done.